Welcome to the Brain Picker Pro Show, live from Lake Wiley, South Carolina, and halfway across the country in the great state of Texas, in the DFW area. My good friend Connor Steinbrook. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Guys, I met Connor, I don't know, maybe a few years ago, and on one of the Financial Friends Network cruises, which is a great place to go meet experienced investors that know what they're doing. And we were both speaking on it. And, you've been doing a lot of different kinds of real estate. You pretty much do it all. And you're really good at doing things virtually. You've had a virtual team. So, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. But I think the biggest bang for our listeners' buck is going to be talking about VAs, and then if we have time, maybe moving into some social media marketing, because you're really big on that as well. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me. Let's
Awesome.
do it.
Why don't you first tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? I know you used to be a professional online poker player until the online poker players Black Friday, right?
Well, I was always supposed to be a real estate investor, so I went off to school at 19. I ordered the Carlton Sheets program off my parents' credit card. And this was the first time I was ever given a credit card. And I didn't know that they were going to be able to see the charges live time.
Right.
So I thought I was going to order the program, do a couple deals, get the money, pay it back before they ever found out. Right.
Right.
Well, the next day I wake up and I get an angry call from my parents. What are you doing? You're a freshman in college. You don't have any money. How can you be a real estate investor? So they made me turn it back, and I had to send it back. So I tell people I went into a much less risky business model going forward, which was I became an online poker player, right? And so, I guess it worked out good for my parents when you look at it like that. Probably not though. But so what happened was I put $20 in an online poker site. This was right when these online poker sites took off, and Chris Moneymaker, Tennessee accountant, normal individual, satellited into the big tournament. He put in like $40 into an online poker site and won a seat into the $10,000 main event. Then he beat a field of a few thousand of the best poker players at the time and won, I think it was like $2.3 million at the time. And it sent this shockwave through the industry, which was you can take a small amount of money and turn it into a big amount of money. And every college kid in America's head exploded. And so that's what started the online poker boom. And, I was playing small stakes, penny stakes, and I graduated my way up, moved up the levels, and I was what was called an online multi-tabler. We used to play 16 to 24 tables at a time, and we weren't playing every hand. We were selecting hands to play, and we were using betting tells, timing tells, and lots of different information, deductive reasoning to work back to figure out what people had. But essentially, that's how I made a living for 10 years, and I rose up to the top of the world. But online poker between mainly 2003 to 2011. Right. Then overnight, the poker sites got shut down on Black Friday. And I lost everything overnight. And this was a very tough time for me. And now looking back, it was a huge blessing for me because it led me into real estate, back to that path. But what was considered at the time, I was a high net income, low net worth individual. And this is very important for you guys that are young. These podcasts are, if you have one income stream, working for a job, or have, even if it's a good income stream, right? If it disappears, or you get sick and you can't do that job, or you can't go to work, where are you, right? So I learned at this moment in my life I'd work for two things going forward: multiple streams of income and passive income. And so I never wanted to have an active income strategy only as my sole income. And so the difference between active income and passive income, if you've never heard of this, guys, is active income, we're trained time, energy, and resources once, but we're getting paid once. This would be like a wholesale deal, or a listing for an agent, or a flip even though you can make good money. Once that deal closes, you can't sell that house again. Anxiety picks up. When's the next check coming? How big is the check going to be? Is it going to be a $500,000 house, $100,000 house, $10,000 deal, $20,000? So it creates a lack of financial stability for people who work for active income. So everything I do is to work towards passive income and to have those income streams. So, I went out there in the job world. Nobody wanted to hire me. And so I realized I had to create a job for myself. And that's when I stumbled into real estate. And it didn't go well for me. I made every mistake in the book. I quickly ended up $65,000 debt. And I used a strategy called wholesaling houses to dig my way out of it. And I started wholesaling houses, and I saved up a little bit of money and was now able to graduate into flipping houses because I had enough money to get into hard money loans. Because most people think a common misconception, Larry, as you see a lot of new investors coming in, is they think if they go find a deal at 70 cents on the dollar and take it to a hard money lender, they're just going to fund the whole deal.
Right.
Now, they don't realize they're going to have points up front, closing costs, cover that first draw, maybe leave some money in there as a temporary down payment. So you need a little bit of money to get in. So you have to wholesale houses to save up a little bit of money. Then went into flipping houses. Then I became bank financeable again, started keeping rental properties, went into owner finance space, and just kind of graduated my way up the ladder and started telling people my story at REI clubs locally. Then I got invited to speak at events, kind of like you did. And then I started Investor Army, YouTube channel, podcast, which you've been on.
Right. And
just started sharing people how I kind of did what I did. So that's how I kind of ended up here. And, one of the ways I built my business was virtually. You have a big trend in the real estate world to running virtual businesses. People are even flipping houses virtually across the country. People are creating turnkey properties. I mean, you run your Filthy Riches program, which is essentially a virtual program right there. Right. So technology has allowed us to leverage a business in all new ways that we've never had before. So I quickly realized I could use virtual assistants. So investors all understand leveraging other people's money, but you have to leverage other people's time as well, and technology. So virtual assistants are what created a huge explosion in my business, because now I could take every little task that I did that was part of my job requirement, where I was wearing every hat in the business. I was like a solopreneur, and now I could leverage it out because most people can hire acquisition guys in their company on a commission-based income stream where they pay them if the deal goes through, but most of them don't have the ability to hire a full-time office employee, which could be $40,000 to $50,000 a year. But they need someone to do that, those day-to-day tasks, posting ads, creating flyers, building email lists, doing those main time-consuming tasks of the job. But nobody's going to do that on commission. Right. So virtual assistants fill this void for people, because now you can hire individuals out of Belarus, out of the Philippines for $3 to $10 an hour to do this for you. And that's what I started doing. And I started, we could probably go in and talk about certain things that we did, but essentially what I did was I allowed systems to be put in place by virtual assistants for a very low cost. And that's basically how I started running my marketing, all my sales processes. Pretty much anything and everything that can be done through a computer or cell phone can be done using a virtual assistant.
Man, that's huge. That is awesome. That's a great backstory. Man, you've come a long way. You've come a long way. And still a young guy.
Right? So, getting older.
so let's talk a little bit about some of the different things that you can have a VA do.
Right. So they pretty much do everything for us. So data entry, data scraping, like you can literally have them go pull lists. So a lot of what y'all's doing, you see this a lot, Larry. When people are starting to have success in real estate, what happens is that they're doing it all on their own. They're spending their time, energy, and resources. They finally get 2, 3, 4 deals going. And then what happens is they're focused on getting those deals from acquisition to monetization, where they're starting to make money on them. But then they're out there dealing with contractors. They're dealing with trying to raise money in the marketplace, and their marketing falls off. And so then they get these houses sold, and now they're like, oh my gosh, now I need more houses. And they start to ramp their marketing up. So it's just up and down, where they don't have 12. Yeah, exactly. They don't have that 12 months of marketing and deal flow in the pipeline.
Right.
So virtual assistants can help you do this while you're getting your projects done. So you can literally have virtual assistants live time, pull lists from the county, upload those lists into Excel, go and skip trace those leads for you, cold call those leads for you, fill out the deal intake form or the lead intake form, get that deal from start A to probably Y, and then you just come in and do the last part where you go in and contact them. So they can go and find out the mortgage information. They can find out the balance owed on the property to know if there's any equity in it. They can pretty much handle everything that you would be doing up until the point you actually have to go out to the property, because they can't physically do certain things, like go out there and meet with the seller. But they can do everything on the front side as far as data scraping. We'll talk about one of the ways that I was created a bonus list. I guess we can talk about it right now. So there's a lot of different lists that I couldn't get because we're marketing in many different counties. And as y'all know, especially those of you who are marketing around the country, every county is a little bit different when you go to pull lists. You may be able to find a bankruptcy list or a code enforcement list or tax delinquent list real easy in one county, but very difficult to find in the other county. and we know what it's like to go and waste a bunch of time getting lost in there. So what I did was I created a bonus list for all my VAs, a number of different bonuses that they could go after. Whereas if they found this list or they found whatever the task was, they would get a bonus for it. And so they now, so you say you have 6 VAs working for you, and you put up a bounty list for $25 a piece, $50 a piece. Well, they want to get those bounties, so they're going to go in there and look quickly, and they're going to go figure it out before the other VAs get it, because that's money up for grabs right there. So it's kind of like doing an affiliate sale or a post-commission sale where they are only getting paid if they find that or if they complete that task, right? So if you're paying them on your own hourly time and they can't go find it,
right,
then you didn't get the benefit of it, right? But this is a way for them to increase their income and go find these on their own time. And quickly we found all these lists that I had trouble finding for a long time. So they're very smart, they're very educated, just because they're what we consider, $5 to $7 an hour is not a lot to them. They're, I believe, on a $3.50 to $1 exchange rate. I think the last time I looked for the Philippines. So they're actually making close to $20 an hour, which is not a bad income, So it's not like it's a job that they don't have pride in.
Right.
So they can go into county records and pull all sorts of lists and leads for you. They can take them. They can even handle your marketing. If you're doing direct mail, they can pull it direct from the county, upload it to Excel, screen these lists, overlap the list, however you're doing your own marketing, then ship that off to the mail servicing company. And literally you don't have to do anything except handle the inbound calls coming in. So what they can do is you can automate all your marketing for one. You can use IP changers. You can use TeamViewer. You can have different systems in place where you can actually track their hours working, because I know that's a big concern for people. How do I know they're doing what they say they're going to be doing? But that's a lot of what investors are doing now. A lot of them are also having them cold call for them, set appointments, because anything that you guys are doing in your business that's a repetitive task, something that just is something that does over and over and over and over, posting ads on Craigslist, posting ads on classified sites, right, sending out email flyers or sending out marketing or list building or data entry, data scraping, something that's not a high value task for you as the business owner can be easily delegated off to a virtual assistant. So one of the things that I did when I was creating systems and delegating in my business was, I think Mitch Steven, yeah. He told me this. It's a great, I don't know where he got it from, but what I would do is I would set my alarm to go off every hour throughout the day. And so as business owners, we get super busy, super distracted all day. And so what happens when that alarm goes off is it brings you to a present moment of focus. And when that alarm goes off, I'd say, is what I'm doing right now something that I need to be doing as a business owner, or is this something that I can delegate off to a virtual assistant to do for me? And so say I was on a phone call with a seller or doing something at a property physically with a contractor that I had to be there. Well, that's something I have to do. But if I was doing something that was a bad use of my time, well, I put it on my delegation list, and I just started creating a list of things that I wanted to delegate off, and then I'd figure out how to get a virtual assistant to take over this task for me. And I started just slowly, incrementally pushing pieces of my business off to different virtual assistants, and that's kind of how that process started for me.
Man, that is awesome. I love the hourly alarm, just to bring you back to the present and make you consciously aware of what am I doing right this second.
Right, because we all know what it's like to wake up and have a to-do list and a task list and have an idea of what we want to do throughout the day. And then 12 hours later, we've been busy all day. We've been doing things all day, but nothing's actually been accomplished. And we look back and we're like, well, I didn't really get anything done. And so it's because once those emails kick in and once the phone calls and the texts start coming in, we veer off. And that alarm coming on stops everything in the chaos and brings you to that present moment of focus and basically allows you to get back on track for the day. And
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got something similar that I use for that. It's this right here.
What is this?
Right. It makes me aware of what I'm doing, right? What can I accomplish in the next 5 minutes right here, right?
Right. It's so easy to set up, and I'm a big, I got sticky notes everywhere. I'm a big believer of taking out the internal and putting in external, because everybody's using technology and online calendars and online to-do lists, but the problem is it's easily able to have that slip your mind when it's inside of technology, inside your phone. Whereas if it's a note right here on your computer, it's right there in front of mind. This is why we write our goals down. This is why we have to-do lists. This is why we write down brainstorming on a notepad, because we can see it visually and it's right there in front of us. So it's front of mind, so we're thinking about it, because it's easy to get off in the weeds throughout the day and kind of go off on a tangent.
That is so true. That's so true. It is easy to get in the weeds, right?
Right.
That's for sure. So let's talk about You've given an overview of a lot of different things that a VA can do for you. So where do you find these VAs?
Right. So I can actually help you get a VA if y'all are really needing one. I think don't you have a VA service?
No.
Or you have affiliate?
I use a couple of different services, but I've got a couple of VAs with me that have been with me for years. One of my VAs has been with me, I don't know, 7 or 8 years already, and we've hardly ever talked on the phone, and she knows what to do, and she just does it, right?
Right.
And then I have another one's been with me for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a good one, they're going to change your life, and they're going to become part of your family. They're going to be, you work with them day to day. So first thing, guys, if you're wanting to get a virtual assistant, first off, before you even do you even need one? And you need to have a scope of work in your mind of what you need them to do, first of all, because a lot of people, you see this happen, they get one, and then they're like, well, I don't even know what to give them. I don't even know what to tell them to do, because they just know that they need help, but they don't know what they need help with. So first off, I would create 2 categories: specific tasks or employee type of job. So, something where you're going to create something once or do something for a short job, maybe that's a 1-hour task or 2-hour task.
Right.
You can go to Fiverr or Upwork, and you can hire these individuals for specific one-off tasks that will just, say, create a banner ad for a new promotional product that you're doing, or create a marketing flyer or something that you're doing that's one-off. So those are what I use those sites for. Those
Small
are out there
projects.
Great resources. Yes, specific task projects that aren't recurring over and over and over. Then you have on the other side of the spectrum, you have positions that you need inside your business that are going to work for you, say 25 hours a week or 40 hours a week, that have continuous, consistent jobs. Like, so for Investor Army, we have a virtual assistant whose only job it is to post videos and post articles on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Right. It's a full-time job that if I was to do that on my own, it'd be literally impossible, because I can't do everything all at once. So if it's a full-time employee that you need, they have VA services out there. One of them that a lot of people are using is VA4REI. It's the letter VA and the number 4 REI. They're a company that goes ahead and trains them a little bit for real estate. They put them, I believe, through a 6-month training program, so they have a little bit of an idea of verbiage of the business. They understand what comps are. They understand ARV. So they've taken some of that front-end training off the plate of the new investor, because that's one of the biggest headaches for people as they get a VA is they have to train them. And then what if they train them and they spend all this time training them, and then that VA leaves? So if you are going to train one, once you train them to do a task, you need to make them go and film a video of that task that you just taught them to do, and create a scope of work for them, and create, I actually have a printed out step-by-step manual of the systems and jobs that we do in our business, but we also have them film videos of it. So if they have to leave for some reason, the next person coming in, you just say, watch the training videos to do the job. So you're not constantly retraining people. This is the same thing. Reason why people don't use bird dogs all the time is because they're constantly training them, and they're constantly turning over, and it burns people out. So it's good to create some type of video series of every job that you have them do in your business, because you do it once, because a lot of them turn over quickly. So the ones that turn over quickly are the young ones, the 20 to 25-year-old VAs, because they're not getting this job for longevity. They're holding that VA position as a bridge job to get them to what they're actually wanting to do, if that makes sense.
Right.
So you don't want to go invest a ton of energy and ton of time into one, not knowing that they're going to be around, especially those of you who are going to run a serious business for many, many years and have someone that could potentially be with you for 5 to 7 years, like Larry said. So you want to kind of gauge and talk to them when you're hiring them. What does your business horizon look like? What does the longevity potentially look like of you staying with me? Because I don't want to go invest a bunch of time, energy teaching you the business and then have you disappear in 3 months, 4 months. And so
Right.
that's where I think a lot of people get frustrated with VAs.
Right. One of the things I've tried doing in the past, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'll give them a bonus at 90
Right.
days and 6 months and a year. So if they make it long term, they see a big bonus coming down the road, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like the bonuses inspire people, and so we give them lots of bonus opportunities as well, and just makes them work harder to get it, and it helps them, they feel more. I try to give them pieces of the business that they feel integrated in, where they actually feel like they're tied in the business, where my success is their success, and then they're going to be more likely to want to work and have a positive attitude coming to work, because when we win, we all win, right? And
Right.
so I think that having a component is good to have in your business like
That's
that.
good. Give us an example of a way you might incentivize one of your VAs.
Right. So Kareen, one of our VAs, my head VA that handles all my social media. So every time we hit certain numbers as far as how many subscribers we have, so many views, or how many, say, YouTube followers we have, she gets a bonus for every milestone that they hit.
Right.
So she's in charge of getting all these videos out, all the ads that we get out consistently. And so if they're not getting out, that means it's a slower path to getting to that next milestone. Whereas
Right.
if she's on top of it every single day, making sure that these are done, even though that's what she's getting paid to do as we hit these milestones. So it just keeps them wanting to keep it consistent going out, because the one thing with social media is if you're not consistent with it, you're getting left behind, because you're fighting for market share just as you are with any business. And for example, like let's say Larry's doing his podcast and he's putting out twice a week at 7:00 on Monday and Thursday. Well, say come Thursday, half his following hops on to see the podcast and it's not on there. What happens on the backside of things is, well, they've already allocated that time of their day to watching Larry's podcast. Well, now they're going to go look for something else to fill that time.
Right.
And what if they stumble on a different person's podcast or somebody else, and they start watching that one going forward, and they don't go back to watching Larry because of a lack of consistency, just because he was busy and couldn't post on a podcast. Whereas if he had a VA that could do it every single week and get it up there every time, he could lose viewers that would be watching his show at that time. They're going to go somewhere else. So consistency is one of the biggest things if y'all are going to build a social media following. Plus, it also plays a role into the SEO algorithm that Google and YouTube have, is they want to see consistent content coming out. So that's where they can really help, is making sure that they get out every day or postings every day when you're building your brand.
That's so true. That's so true. In fact, when we set up the podcast, when you interviewed me, I think Kareen handled that. She put all that together.
Right.
She set all that up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't do really anything I do in any of my businesses. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, businesses, in order to scale, have to hire employees, right? But most people, like we're talking about earlier, they can't hire someone as a single investor coming out. They get to this point where they're overwhelmed, they're burnt out, they know they have to hire someone, but then they're looking at, they may only be making 150 grand a year. And it's a big fear barrier for them to say, let me hire a full-time office assistant for 40, 50 grand. What if I spend time training them and I step off into my business and deal flows drop and I can't create an income? So it's a very stressful time for them. And so this is a quick, VAs are the first jump into building a real business and not just being a solopreneur, as we call it, because they're not that big a risk. You can have them come in. You don't have to hire them on a contract. You don't have to hire them on a 40-hour week. You can guys just slowly step into it and say, let me have someone come in for 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and slowly start to add. And then when you have more money coming in, you can hire another one. But, another thing is I hire multiple ones. Like, say I'm going to hire a new position for a VA. I'm going to probably get 4 or 5 different VAs to do a test run with for probably 2 to 4 weeks, right?
Right.
And the ones, because you're not, so if you hired one, the odds that person's going to stick with you a long time is not likely. So we want to hire a few at a time, make them all do the same task, look at, the results, see which one did the best job, because some of them just aren't going to be what you need. Right. And so that's one of the ways that we make sure that we get increase our chances of having one that's going to do the job correctly and stay with us longer. So we put them through a little test run to make sure they can follow directions, make sure they can hit timelines. And then we say, if you can do this and you can meet these steps, we're going to give you more hours, give you more opportunity, give you more options for bonuses. And so I think most people just hire one at a time and get frustrated, and then they don't want to try another one. Whereas you may want to hire 3 or 4 at a time and give them the same job. Instead of hiring one right away for 40 hours a week, why not hire 4 for 10 hours a week? So you're spending the same amount of capital, but you're also getting to see how multiple ones respond and work to you.
Exactly. So I know when I hire a VA, unless it's just something that is really they can do any time of the day, I want to make sure that they can work 9 to 5 Eastern time. How important is that to you? Probably, especially in something like social media, you don't want them posting all the stuff at 3 a.m. You want them posting things, during U.S. time during the day when people are awake. Tell us about that.
Right. So, what we do is, so like the Philippines is 12-hour time difference, right?
Right. They're 12 hours ahead.
Right. And so, I actually have them post usually between 7 and 9 o'clock our night, which is when I see the highest volume of views come in. Because if you look at a 30,000-foot view of what a traditional person is doing, that's potentially jumping into the real estate world, which is who you'd be posting ads for, those new agents or new investors. So they go to work, they're 9 to 5, they get off work, they come home, they go get something to eat, and then they relax. And then usually from like 7 to midnight is when the highest viewership we see comes in. Now you can hire a VA and train them how to use pre-set posting time periods. So you can go into a lot of these social media platforms and post ads or have it set to where it posts at a certain time.
Right.
So for people who travel a lot, or for people, because you want to have it like a television show. The reason why, say you're watching Dancing with the Stars or whatever, it shows one day a week or whatever day a week it is at that exact time. So if you can have a consistent posting pattern where people can have an idea of when your videos are coming out, they can expect that it comes out. So a lot of people schedule them to come out, say 3 p.m. Monday and Wednesday is the 2 times their new videos are coming out a week. So they can schedule that, and they can post them at 2 in the morning our time and post them into YouTube, but they don't actually go live until that time period, if that makes sense. So they don't have to be working during this time. Now, what you are going to run into a problem is if they're not willing to, and some of the young ones will stay up and work in the middle of the night and do this, but if you're doing cold calling and you're doing massive marketing to the seller or you're contacting buyer leads or something where you need your VA physically on a phone talking to a person here, that's not going to work if it's 2 a.m. there or 2 a.m. here when they're working, right?
Right.
So you're going to have to find ones that specifically will do that. Now, there are VAs in a lot of areas in Mexico and Central America that will do this for you. And so you may have to find one here in your time zone that will do that. I don't know how big your reach is. I'm sure you have a lot of people over in Europe too listening to this and all around the world. But you need to find your time zone and find ones that are awake during that time, because one of the biggest benefits of having VAs is that if you're awake from 9 to 9 here and they're awake from 9 to 9 there, is that you're running a 24-hour a day business. So you're actually having someone, a physical person, not just having ads working online, but you're actually having physical work done 24 hours a day. But you need to kind of break down your different jobs and tasks in your business and figure out, is this something they need to do physically live time, that they're going to be having to work with someone physically live time here in the States? Or is this something that they can do ahead of time and structure on a timing pattern that this work can go out incrementally throughout the day that's preset on a predetermined time frame, I guess you could say.
That's really good. That's very important. Usually whenever I'm posting an ad, I will tell them they must be available between the hours of 9 to 5 Eastern time. We had a guy not too long ago that we had hired to help us with our closings. He was going to be our transaction coordinator, and every week we have a level 10 meeting. We run our business based on traction and rocket fuel, the EOS system, and we would Skype him in. We would Skype him in, and he would be in the meeting, and he would be like this. It was funny. I mean, you could tell he wasn't used to working the night shift in the Philippines. So we, after a few days of that, we had to let him go because you could tell. I mean, if he was falling asleep in the meetings, he's going to be asleep right after we hang up, right?
Right. I mean, that's one of the ones that it's just like he has to physically be there present to do that job. That's why I've had, issues with sometimes them calling leads, because you don't want them calling motivated sellers at 11 o'clock at night U.S. time, right?
Right.
So that's been one of our barriers of entry as well. Hopping over this is that if they actually have to be awake doing something at the same time Americans are awake. So I would be looking into VAs. So like one of the ways y'all can find a VA is y'all can just simply go to LinkedIn and type in, I'm looking for a VA service that'll work American U.S. Central Standard Time or Eastern Time these hours.
Right.
And there are a lot of them out of South America and Mexico that will do this for you. So that's how I get around that. But I mean, you're always going to have some issues when it comes to hiring people. There's just, even if they work in your office, it's still tough to get them to show up on time.
It's the nature of the business.
To show up to the property, right? It's just part of it.
It's the nature of the business. Now, do you ever recommend hiring a VA and training them, or do you recommend just going ahead and hiring someone who already knows what they're doing?
I mean, it'd be good if you could hire someone that already knows what they're doing. It's just hard to find that person because just like good help anywhere, if they're a good employee, guys, like if you do find a good VA, you need to do everything to keep them there and make sure that they're happy and give them bonuses because, they're a big part of your business. Now, if someone, say Larry had a really good VA, I don't think you're going to let them leave, right?
Correct.
So there's just probably not a lot of them out there circulating. And I don't know a way to actually go out there and find one that, is already trained and going to do really well. So you're going to have to train most of them. Plus, everybody's business is different. Like your business, your internal working is going to be a lot different than my business, even though we're both in real estate and probably have similar types of activities and systems that probably could overlap. But ultimately, there's a lot of unique, specific things that are done within someone's business that are kind of unique to them alone. So if you're going to hire more than one, what you need to do is you need to have one main VA that basically is your head VA or your office leader, I guess, right. And they need to work and train the other VAs. And so if you're going to have at least 3 VAs or 4 VAs, you should have one that's your head VA who is in control of coaching or training those other VAs and helping them. Plus, it's a checks and balances because if you have one VA that you trust, they're watching these other VAs. And I actually have multiple VAs that work out of the same property over in the Philippines, and they're all interconnected. So it's a good way they can all help each other and work together. So it's essentially you can build an office. I know like Brant Phillips on our team here, he has a full office built out in the Philippines where he's got like 8 or 9 VAs that work there. So it's literally the same thing as if you had an office here in the States, just virtually over there. And you can hop on Skype like we're doing right now and talk to them face to face. So
that's true.
It's just a limiting belief I think a lot of people have that they can't hire someone that's not physically present. It's just the same thing with like people like, well, I can't buy a rental property or I can't do a filthy riches type of owner financing strategy halfway across the country if I'm not physically there to walk in the property and see it with my own eyes.
Yeah, and I believe you're right. It is a limiting belief. A lot of people think, we got to be there face to face. And there are even, like, I had a VA a while back. He was putting in HUD bids for me. I mean, he was setting the woods on fire for a while. In fact, he was in Lahore, Pakistan, and they had like a huge 8-story building, big commercial office building. The first floor was nothing but restaurants, and every other floor was nothing but a cubicle farm, and they rented out desks for like $100 a month, which included a phone and an internet connection and a cubicle, right? And he hired 2 or 3 other people, and they call them BPO centers. I believe it's Business Protocol Outsourcing. Is that what that stands for?
I'm not sure, but yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean that's pretty typical for what they do. I mean, I've actually got a company that I've aligned with that has VAs because from what I understand, there's a big unemployment issue over there right now, and VAs are becoming a big part of the market share of the job force over there, and people are now training to become VAs. And so you can train them to do your business. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they're going to be doing is low task anyways. Like, it doesn't take a lot of time to figure out how to post an ad. And so, like, you have to look at, also, guys, there's not just a static fixed number that you pay a VA. Like, so for a VA that's going to do very low skilled task or a very low skilled job, you may pay them $3.50 or $4 an hour, sometimes even $2.50. But if they're going to do a high skilled job, like actually where they're going to have to communicate and set appointments and cold call and, track these calls and follow up with them, you're going to maybe have to pay them more, like $8 or $9, more like real minimum wage. So you're going to have a sliding scale of what they're going to cost. So people are always asking, how much should I pay a VA? And it's really relative to your business and how valuable what they're doing for you is. So if they're doing something that's creating a lot of value to your business, you should pay them more and pay them well for doing so. But if they're doing a job that anybody can do, which is simply just cutting and pasting, ads or pulling data from a county once they watch a quick step-by-step video on how to do it, I wouldn't be paying them very much for that to do those jobs.
Right. Exactly. So what about like your VAs? Do they work like just for you, or do they also work for other people? You have them working part-time or full-time?
Yeah, I have mine full-time pretty much. So most of them, I try to give them at least 25 hours a week.
Right.
Most of them. Yeah. So they want to, just like you want to know that they're going to be around and you're going to have some security with them being around. They want to feel the same type of security. They're just as much at risk. And so, like, a lot of investors talk about, my VA is, taking advantage of me. They're not doing the full amount of work, because it's scary. You're like, are they actually doing anything? Or they say they're doing something, but they're just sitting there at the computer sending me an invoice. But there's just as much risk for these VAs. There's a lot of investors that are, not so honest either, and get VAs to do a bunch of work and then they don't pay them. So it goes both sides. There's a double-edged risk for them. And so they want to know that they're going to have job security. And so I like to hear them say things like, just wait till next year, just wait till 3 years from now, where we're going to be. And so now when you because just a few words come out of their mouth like that, on a subconscious level, they've just told you that they're planning to be with you for a long time.
Right.
And so those are the ones I want to cultivate and put more time and energy in and build a better relationship with them and give them more opportunities, because in order to scale a business, there's nothing more that sets you back and puts that roadblock in your progression than having an employee leave, that you just put all this time and energy into them and then they just disappeared on you. Right.
Right.
The other thing is, like, people ask, like, you can have them do all sorts of things. If you can create a company employee credit card, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't trust them with my money, or I don't trust them to do things, but you can put limits on your cards, say whatever you're comfortable with, $500,000, $2,000 risk. And so, like, say you are doing a marketing campaign, you can tell them, I need you to pull 500 leads and do 500 probate mailers set to go by this date. Right. And in the morning, they've already done that. They pulled the leads, they've set the campaign, they've uploaded the mailer piece that you're using for that mailing campaign to the mail servicer, and they paid for it already. Or you can set up ahead of time with these companies where you have a credit card on file. But I let them, do all sorts of things for me when it comes to that side of the business. But ultimately it just comes down to what you need them to do. So I would say, don't overwhelm them. I think this is a big problem a lot of people have, is they just throw so much at them. And so, guys, like, if you're going to, even one of my VAs now that's been with me for a long time, she almost left me early on, because what I would do is I'd give her these tasks to do. Say it's a 2-week task, and then 3 days into it, what do we do as a business owner? We're like, oh, I'm just going to switch directions right now. This way. Right. And I'm like, I give her, okay, for the next 2 weeks, you're going to do this, and this. And 3 days later, I'm like, stop that, go this way. Right. And it's very, very stressful for them. And a lot of times we expect them to know what we want them to do, and it's easy to overwhelm them and give them too many things. So instead of I would have 1 or 2 main tasks that each VA does. So instead of hiring one for 40 hours a week, you may want to hire 2 for 20 hours a week and give them specific tasks so they do that same task over and over and over.
Right.
And so, like, if I was to do a task, and this is another reason why people don't outsource, Larry, is they're like, well, they can't do it as good as I can do it. So let's say that you are able to do a specific job in your business, and if you did it on your own, you would get scored a 95 out of 100. well, or a 90 out of 100.
Right.
Whereas that VA may do it, they may get scored an 80 out of 100. So they're less productive, less efficient. But when you start layering in everything that you do throughout the day, with the amount of time and distractions coming off that, you may now be at a 70 out of 100. So plus, as they do that task over and over and over, this is the only thing they do. They're going to get better at it. They're going to be able to do it quicker and faster and more efficient. So their skill level is going to go up at it when your time and distraction level on all the other parts of your business, being the business owner, is dropping. So it's going like this. So even if you're better at doing it, if you're only doing that one task, once you layer in all your other tasks that you do, and then with them getting better at it over time, they're still probably going to do a better job than you for less cost. And so I think that's the confusion a lot of people have when they're trying to figure out should they hire someone.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I have one for you. I had a VA a while back. This guy was doing a lot of repetitive tasks, okay? But it was computer tasks, and it was things that, here's what he did. And this guy was with me for years, right? And I called him a couple of times, but anyway, what he would do is he would write macros that would allow him to go out and do these tasks, whether it's posting ads or do searches or export lists or whatever. He would create macros and he would push a button and it would do all that. And then he also created a macro. He took about 3 screenshots. Now you know this, but maybe some of the listeners don't. On a lot of the sites like Upwork.com, it takes random screenshots of the virtual assistant's computer so you can see that they're actually doing something.
Right.
This guy took about 3 different screenshots, like one of email, maybe one of the HUD home store, maybe one of my social media sites, or one of a Craigslist ad. And he had a macro that would rotate those screenshots on his computer. So when we would look at his work diary, it would show different screenshots, but it took me a while to figure it out. It was the exact same screenshot, right back to the exact same social media post or the same email. And when we called him out on it, he said, okay, I'll take care of it. Then what he did was added like 2 more screenshots and started rotating those.
I mean, there's things you can do. You can set production minimums that, like, that they're going out. Like, so, like, say you can post, say you've done it in your business for years because you're getting ready to go from yourself doing it and delegating off. So say you can post X amount of units per hour, say 50 ads an hour.
Right.
You need to set like a minimum. Be like, I know that 50 ads an hour can be put out pretty easily. Right. You need to be doing an absolute minimum 30 ads an hour for the first few weeks, and as you get better, 40 ads an hour or whatever. And you can have, like, a lot of these sites, you can track that on the back end analytics to see the activity and see how much they're doing.
Right.
And just tell them, be like, ahead of time, like, if you're not hitting these target goals, I'm going to let you go ahead of time.
Yeah.
So pre-frame the situation and say, look, I need you to hit this many ads a week. I need you to post this many social media posts. I need you to, create 15 flyers for whatever, and if they're not hitting it, and a lot of people want to give them extra chances. And from our experience, it's a habit. They're not going to change just overnight. So, like, we may give them 1 or 2 chances, but, like, if they're already doing it, just like Larry said, like, that guy, what did he do? He got called out, and all he did was just try to create a better system to cover himself up. He didn't just go and switch and just say, how can I start posting these ads and doing my job?
Right.
He just said, how do I do a better job at not getting caught doing it? So when you start to see a character flaw in their work ethic and then their integrity, it's not just going to change just because you want it to. So it's just better just to get a new VA quick.
Yeah, and listen, I wasn't saying he wasn't doing the work. He was doing the work. He was just doing 10 hours worth of work, but billing me for 40, right?
Right. Well, the other thing is, like, also, guys, like, if you do get one you can trust, a lot of them are trustworthy and they just want the work and to supplement a secondary, there's either husband or wife supplementing the other one's income. And one thing that I see a lot of people waste a lot of money on is that they want them to send them an end of day report, right? Saying their job to-do list that they did this, and this. Well, there's a cost of time to do that. And a lot of times it takes them 15 to 30 minutes just to type up their end of day report or to go back in and kind of break down what they've done.
Right.
Well, if you're paying them an extra 15 minutes a day to do that over the course of a year, that's a lot of time that they could have been doing something else on. What if they could have called 2 more different individuals cold calling during that time period? What if they posted more ads? So if once I know that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I don't have to kind of police them and watch them, I prefer that they don't have to go through and put those reports in, because they're either going to do it or they're not. And it comes down to initiative and self-responsibility. And, so I try not to. A lot of people want them to do that every day and prove that they're doing the work, but it's just, I see it as a waste of cost. They're either going to do it or they're not.
Man, I totally agree. I used to do the same thing. Send me a list of what you're doing, but it takes up 5 or 10 or 15 minutes of their time.
Right. Right.
It's a waste of time.
It's the same thing every day.
Right.
So like, why send me what you did every day? And I mean, if it gets to be this symbiotic mutual agreements between the two of y'all and y'all have a relationship, and they have room to grow, and that you say, well, if we hit this certain target, I'm going to give you an increase, or as long as you're doing this every 6 months, I'm going to give you $0.25 an hour raise. Right. They're going to keep staying working with you, and you're giving them more opportunities so that you don't have to worry about them leaving. And they don't want to leave because they're happy where they're at. But yeah, if you're having to constantly feel like you're policing your VA, it's probably time to experiment with a new one. I wouldn't get rid of them right away. I would go hire another one first and have them overlap each other, and then have a way to merge them out, I guess you could say.
Right. Plus you can cross-train them.
Right.
Yeah. Man, this has been awesome. Connor, I really, really appreciate you being on here. You shared a tremendous amount of information. Anybody looking for a VA, man, you guys ought to be able to go out there and find one and hire them, recruit, train, motivate, and manage them, and give them incentives and make sure you get the right one. You ought to be able to do all that now. So, Connor, thanks so much, man. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, I know you have a podcast. You're out there big on social media, because you've got Corrine helping you out there with that. Right?
Right. I couldn't do it without my VAs. Like, there's no way I could get the amount of postings out. So yeah, if you're going to scale social media following, you have to. So yeah, if y'all want to follow us, go check out our podcast, Investor Army Podcast. Larry's been on there. You can check out our Investor Army YouTube channel. And then you can just go to investorarmy.com to contact us, or you can reach me at 469-855-6963. I can help some of y'all get VAs. If I know, Larry, you got a big audience. If hundreds of people call me, I probably can't help everybody. But other than that, you got to specifically figure out what job you want them to do. Is this a specific task job, or is this a full-time employee type of job? And then that's going to dictate which way you go as far as looking for them. So if it's just a one-off job, guys, best off going to Fiverr or Upwork. But if you have the need of a full-time employee, reach out to me or reach out to VA4REI or one of these other companies out there.
That's awesome, man. That sounds great. I really, really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
All right.
Always grateful to come on.
Thanks a lot, man. You take care.
All right, thanks, Larry.